Good morning, fellas.
What's
Good
good?
morning. Morning, man.
How y'all doing?
Good, man. How about
Another
yourself?
day. Yeah,
KP, like, I'm good, man. I'm
that's
good.
it. It's another day. Another day to be great. That's all.
And good morning, Mom. Good morning, Kels. Um, another day, another dollar. So, welcome to another team meeting. Sorry, where we are here to distract you from your current story, dismantle your current belief systems, and inspire you to change your mind because you can't have a changed life until you change your mind. So go ahead and hit that share button. We love the likes, we love the comments, but our mission is to serve. So the more people we can get in front of, the better. So go ahead and hit that share button. All right, so what's the focus for today? This week, not much happened to me personally, but just paying attention to things and something that we can all relate to. So we're going to talk about education and entertainment using this past week as our focus. But before we get into that, let's check out this 5-minute video shot by Pizzle with some work done by the team last year. How many times did you hurt yourself? 9 times out of 10, you got more. There's power in competing with yourself.
I've really learned that our young people can, number one, sit, listen, be engaged. It was amazing to literally see these kids that often walk the halls in Rome, be able to sit down, come together, and articulate their thoughts. So I really learned that they can do whatever we push them to. We increase the expectations for their lives, they'll certainly rise to it. So that's what I learned. Yes.
No matter what you go through, it's not as bad as you think it is. I really pulled that from KG, pulled that from him, and the other things for his dad. He kept pushing no matter what, like he owning properties and stuff. Y'all all came up the same way, so all talking to us. Maybe when no matter where you come from, there's always a way up.
reminded that the absence of African American men in education across all levels is a huge deficit, and we need to fill in that gap.
I feel like supercharged because I was able to see over 30 of our young men from West Philadelphia High School interact together, engage each other, and learn, stimulate their mind and their physical bodies. It was phenomenal.
All right, so how is that relevant to today? So that was a game day that we did at West Philadelphia High School, and obviously in Philly. And whenever we do a game day with a group, our primary motivation is simply to build relationships with that group of kids, that group of adults, that group of families, that team, or whatever the case may be. Um, and after working with, yeah, we didn't have any girls. After working with those young men, we came to like a synopsis for them that in the African American community, generally speaking, we are actually more educated by entertainment than we are by actual education. If you've ever been around kids in an academic atmosphere recently, you step into a math classroom, an English classroom, a history classroom. Generally speaking, look up the data. They don't know too much. But then you go to the basketball game, you go to the football game during the timeout. They got the music going. The whole entire crowd knows the song. You ask them what's the formula in math, they don't have a clue. But every single song that comes on, they know every word. Every single show, everything about entertainment, we, generally speaking, we know everything about. But ask somebody when's the last time they picked up a book. They don't know. When the last time they watched a documentary or something, took some notes and applied it. They don't know. But every single song, every single trendy TikTok dance, everything like that, we know. And at the end, you saw us running around with the kids. So we take the principles that we teach them in the morning, and in the afternoon, we put them through stressful situations to see how they apply it. And I don't know if you can really tell, but they really had us upset at the end because it was like as soon as we got to some competition, everything went out the window. They started cheating, they was arguing, they was fighting, not communicating, everything just was bad, right? So we decided that when we came back to finish our project with them, along with Miss Mariano, their principal, that we were going to teach them educationally through entertainment. So before we came back, it was right after, when we came back the second time, Pop Smoke had passed away, right? So I was like, all right, how can we use this to learn? So we listened to a track called Invincible by Pop Smoke with the kids, and we read the lyrics. And all in all, Pop Smoke was talking about how he was invincible. He can't die. He can't be touched. The Pop Smoke got smoked a couple of days before we came back to Philly, right? And we were showing them like, yo, this is the music that everybody generally now is listening to. Just an example from a younger dude, right? From that area, more or less. And from what the public knows, he got jammed up because he was showing off on social media some purchases he made from the store or whatever. It had his address on it. So some other dudes seen the address, they pulled up to the address and they murdered him, right? Because he did some gangster stuff by showing off with his address on the gram. Wasn't the smartest. That wasn't gangster at all. But then we had another song by Yo Gotti. It's called Big Homie Rules. And he talks about that the impact that older men can have on younger men and who younger men should listen to and who they should not listen to based on his experience. So we took the two conflicting messages from the songs and we read that over with the kids. So we subconsciously, they were working on reading and writing and they didn't even notice it. And we were like teaching them music, teaching them like, yo, look at the things that you're listening to. But what we really did is after we analyzed the songs, we had them annotate. And we had them take different lyrics from the songs and find out what category, this is our curriculum right here, what category did the lyrics fit into? So, all right, Pop Smoke has this mindset that he couldn't die. He was invincible. Boom. All right, you're going to go with Malcolm. Y'all going to go to the mindset section, right? Or I seen that Pop Smoke was talking about shooting people and that's not healthy, XYZ. Or he was selling drugs to get money, whatever the case may be, from both sides. And we split into different groups to go over the lyrics and compare that to the curriculum. Right now, unfortunately, we got hit with the Rona. We weren't able to finish. But all in all, at the end of the year, we were going to take the kids and they were going to present the lyrics to the staff, the teachers, even the superintendent, the city of Philly, right? And talk about what they learned and how music can have an impact on them, right? So that all started from that first game day event. And that leads us to today. Today, we're going to do a similar kind of activity. All right. So education and entertainment. So after DMX passed, I seen, what we do now, trendy thing collectively, we give somebody their flowers. Even if we gave them before, we give them way more after they pass away. Right? Why that is, I don't know. We'll get to that a little bit later. So I was just doing some research on DMX, like actually going through the lyrics and listening and seeing what I could come up with. So this is from Who We Be on the album called The Great Depression, right? So I'm going to just read them so you can just try to get the gist of what he's saying. So the streets, the cops, the system, harassment, the options, get shot, go to jail, get your behind kicked. The lawyers, the part they are of the puzzle, the release, the warning, try not to get in trouble. The snitches, the odds, probation, parole. The new charge, the bell, the warrant, the hold. The cell, the bus, the ride up north. The greens, the boots, the yard, the hearts. The fighting, the stabbing, the pulling, the grabbing. The riot squad with the captain. Nobody knows what happened. The 2 years in the box. Revenge, the plots. The 23 hours that's locked and the one that's not. The silence, the dark, the mind, so fragile. The wish that the streets would not have took you when they had you. The days, the months, the years, despair. One night on my knees, here comes the prayer. All right, that is the second verse from, I think that's the second verse from Who We Be. So what did that make me think of? All right, so once again, we're taking the music and talking about what it makes you think of and what we can learn from it. So number one, if you really, really know me, you know that my right-hand man from my life is Joe, right? But Joe has been incarcerated since he was like 16, since my junior year. And he fell victim to a lot of these things that DMX talked about. Like if you ever see me watch stuff, like I watch a lot of things about prison just because I got like I'll say 2.5, because one, I don't know where he at in his life right now. But 2.5 very, 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 very close friends to me, who have spent or are spending a lot of time in prison. Like people I live with, people slept in the same bed with growing up, like brothers, So I always think about the things that they're going through, and what made them end up in the situation that they're in, Now he talks about the streets, the cops, and the system. That's a whole lot that he fit into 6 words. And if you didn't notice, this whole verse is about more or less the experience that he had in jail and or prison. Number 2, George Floyd, the streets, the cops, the system. I think I don't even know all the details that happened with him besides the obvious, but I always was curious as to what happened before that. How did he end up in that situation? What did they do? What was it done? Whatever the case may be. But clearly it was handled wrong. It was handled way, 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 way wrong by the cops and the system, right? But clearly he was a victim of the streets too. From what I understand, he had some issues with drugs in his previous life. I don't know if he was having issues with drugs when he passed away, but it made me think of George Floyd. It made me think of Karan Nazario, the dude from two days ago. The military dude, he was in Virginia, where I would assume that many of us saw the video where the cops had him pulled over at the gas station. They was pointing the guns at him. They pepper sprayed him and all this kind of stuff. And the whole time, he was just sitting in his car with his hands up, right? He didn't do anything. But we got to get Mike back on here, KG, so we can talk about how to better handle the police. Because this is all my opinion. I believe like we can handle things better. Like it's not fair. It ain't never been fair. I think we should just kind of give up on fairness and kind of just adjust to what we can do. Like he got jammed up. He had a new car. Not his fault. Like he got a new car. So he didn't have a license plate yet. So he had like the paper license plate in his window. And the feds, they couldn't see it. They said they couldn't see it. I don't know if they could or if they couldn't, whatever. So they put the lights on. Well, he was nervous. He was scared. He kept driving. Not fast, not speeding away. He just kept driving, looking for light. So that's how he ended up at the gas station. So boom, they hit him with the evasion. And then when they pulled him over at the gas station, he didn't get out. They told him, yo, get out the car. He didn't resist. He put his hand out the window. He ain't moved the whole time. Right? But maybe we don't have that situation if he just gets out. Who knows? You know, we know how the feds do when they pull people over. It's a dangerous situation for us and them. Like most of them die from domestic violence disputes where a man and a woman are extremely emotional and they die from pulling people over. Like just these past 2 weeks, there was 2 other videos where the feds pulled somebody over. They just walked up and they got killed. They got shot. Right? So it's a sticky situation. We got to know what's going on. We got to know how to handle it for what it is. I'm not saying anybody's right or anybody's wrong, right? These are just some places that the song took me. Primarily the streets, the cops, the system, and the prison experience, right? All things that we all can relate to. All right, moving on to another verse. Same song. This here is all about my wife, my kids, the life that I live. Through the night, I was his. It was right. But I did. My ups and the downs, my slips and my falls, my trials and tribulations, my heart, my women, my mother, my father. I love him. I hate him. I wish God I didn't have him, but I'm glad that he made him. The roaches, the rats, the strays, the cats, the guns, the knives, and the bats. Every time we scrap. The hustling, the dealing, the robbing, the stealing. The stuff hit the ceiling. A little boy with no feelings. The frustration, the rage, trapped inside a cage. I got beatings till the age I carried a 12 gauge. Somebody stop me. Somebody come and get me. All right, that was powerful. And what I heard from that, it made me think of one of my former students who was killed last year. He got murdered in 2020. He just graduated. I don't think he made it a month after graduation. And you'll often hear me talk about this one student who would say, Malcolm, you need to quit this math, SHIT, and you need to be a motivational speaker and a therapist. You need to quit this math, and you need to be a motivational speaker and a therapist. Because I don't want to do nothing when I come to school. But once you talk to me, I'll do anything. And that was him. And that was those were big moments for me because he was helping me see my purpose. You know, like he was like, yo, math is cool, you know that, but I get so much more from you when you give me what you know. He was the first student to ever meet my son. It was a really random. He was in Walmart. He came full speed sprinting, like behind me. I just heard these steps. By the time I turned around, he was already there playing with my son. So I'm like, oh, but then I looked, it was him. You know, like that's just the kind of person that he was. But it's also the first time that I met his family. And I could see from that experience why he had some of the struggles that he had. He had a lot. He had a lot going on that he had to overcome at home. And I can see now, like looking back, like he had a lot of cries for help, just like this was with DMX. Like somebody stop me, somebody come and get me. Primarily because of all of the things that he went through as a kid, things that were not his fault. All right, so let's move on. He went through a lot of things as a kid and a lot of things that wasn't his fault. So another track, Slipping, from Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. All right, so see, to live is to suffer, but to survive, that's to find the meaning in the suffering. I'm slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up. I'm slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up. I'm slipping, I'm falling, I gotta get up. Get me back on my feet so I can tear stuff up. 2 times. First came the drama with my mama. childhood relationships. She got on some fly stuff till I split. I left. And I said, I'm going to be the seed that doesn't need much to succeed. I don't got much, but I'm still going to make it happen. Trapped with mad greed and a heart that doesn't bleed. So I'm cool. I've been through so much already that my emotions are dead. I'm ready for the world, at least I thought I was. Bagging when I caught a buzz for thinking about how short I was. Going too fast, it wouldn't last, but I couldn't tell. Group homes and institutions prepare my behind for jail. They put me in a situation as a child, forcing me to be a man, when I was just learning to stand without a helping hand. Was it my fault? Something I did that made my father leave his first kid at 7, doing my first bid? Back on the scene at 14 with a scheme to get more cream than I ever seen in a dream. And by all means, I'll be living off the living high off the hog. And I never gave a care about much but my dog. That's my only. I had offered my last, just another little dude headed nowhere fast. Right? So I need help. Please help me. I've been through all this kind of crazy stuff, and I've been prepared to be an inmate. Right? This is a cry for help. A horrible childhood, and he was not developed. I'm slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up. Somebody help me. Like, not him, get me back. Somebody get me back on my feet. I need your help. Next verse, and I think this is the last one. If I'm strong enough, I'll live long enough to see my kids doing something more constructive with their time than bids. I know because I've been there, now I'm in there, sit back and look at what it took for me to get there. Another part of the song. It wasn't long before I hit rock bottom. Like, blank, look how that rock got him. Open like a window, no more endo. Looking at the video saying that could have been me on a TV. Believe me, it could be done. Something's got to give. It's got to change because I've got a son. I've got to do the right thing for shorty, and that means no more getting high or drinking 40s. Nothing but love. And this is moving on again. Nothing but love for those that know how I feel, and much respect to my friends that kept it real. Be strong. They kept me from doing wrong. So different parts of the same song, slipping. So number one, that made me think of my son. I think DMX, he had like 15 kids or something wild like that. But this part right here, it's got to change because I've got a son. I've got to do the right thing for shorty. And if you know me, you know what I call my son. I've got to do the right things for shorty. And that means no more getting high drinking 40s. So last week, it was my fault, I guess, but my son had practice, soccer practice. It got rained out, and I missed the communication that it got rescheduled for Friday. And by the time I noticed on Friday, practice was almost over. I would have drove up there, I would have missed it. It absolutely tore me up. We had our game 7 meeting, and they was like, "Yo, like, why are you tripping?" It's like, I'm gonna be at everything. I have to be at everything. Because I know firsthand how it feels for people that care for you. They don't do the role that they set up for themselves sometimes. And that didn't sit well with me. And then also every day working with so many black boys who don't have a father who's massively committed to them, I refuse to become one of those. Right? So that resonated with me. So, when you got a little person that come from you, I really don't respect you if you don't do everything in your power to do everything you can for that little person. Take it how you want to take it. Otherwise, don't have one. I don't care how bad it is. That's coming from a father. Bizzle and KG, I'm sure y'all gonna have that feeling as well. But I just don't get how people, and I know we talk about that time, the 80s, the 70s, drug addicts was everywhere, the government, the president. Every black man or woman did not fall victim to that stuff. Millions did not. They had a choice. They could have used, they could have sold them, or they could have watched from the sidelines. They had a choice. It wasn't no magic elixir that made them make the choices that they made. Then the second one, I put his name because he's been on the podcast open about it. But nothing but love for those that know how I feel, and much respect to all my friends that kept it real. They kept me from doing wrong. So this dude right here is probably the most gifted person I've ever been around. The best athlete I've ever been around, hands down, and just a charisma that is through the roof. Like he can make people do anything, like anything, yo. He just You want to talk about an influencer? He's made to be that. But he's had so much trauma in his life, a lot of things that he brought upon himself. He's made a lot of bad decisions. He's been to prison. He just came home last year. But he got a lot going on at all times. A lot of people around him. But every now and then he'll hit me with a message or he make a post on the Instagram about how me and Just are his true friends. Because we're the only two people that ever tell him no. We the only two people that went to visit him when he was doing his bid. And we the only two that wasn't with him when he was doing the things that earned him his time in prison. But he always thanks us for keeping it real and steering him to do right no matter what happens between us. All right, so that's how I resonated with those verses. All right, so what's the point? So there are going to be a lot of unfortunate things that happen to you in your life, especially if you're African American, especially if you're an African American man. But so what? Just because it's not your fault does not mean that it's not your responsibility. Just because it's not your fault does not mean that it's not your responsibility. Just because it's not your fault does not mean that it's not your responsibility. But number one, DMX was born into a wild family, and he was unknowingly introduced to drugs at such an early age, right? From his mother, and then we all know the story about how his fake mentor passed him some marijuana that had some crack in it, boom, hooked him. None of this was his fault, but it was his responsibility to overcome this. As somebody who's been directly affected by drugs in like very, very close ways, I never used them, but I lost a lot because of drugs, yo. I lost a lot because of drugs. A lot of people, a lot of things. And it on both sides, the drugs and the money, it hooks people. But the people that overcome it, they didn't place a blame on the fault. They made a commitment to overcoming their situation. Eventually, it comes to a point where you find a big enough reason to overcome fault and graduate to responsibility. So in addition, as a leader, once you realize that you have influence over others, it now becomes your responsibility to serve who you influence. You don't have to make that you don't have to make that choice. You don't. But if you're truly a leader, you commit to your followers and turn them into leaders. The strongest leaders don't have followers. The strongest leaders have tons of other leaders that follow behind them. Right? Like I said with Willie, I was never expecting to have no game 7. I was never expecting to teach life. I was never expecting to be this kind of person. But them little kids kept telling me, like, yo, Malcolm, you're not no teacher. You need to be a motivational speaker and a therapist. The math is cool, but I don't even do math until you talk to me. Then I went to a new school, and a little girl told me I saved their life. Another person told me I saved their life. Teachers coming to me crying, all these kind of things. Yo, all right. And then I took it on as my responsibility. That was just me being me, and the people that were following at the time were telling me the kind of influence that I had on them. So I accepted that as my responsibility. All right. Did he not know his true impact? Because these days, we don't show real love until they're gone. Over the past year, Pop Smoke had like the #1 album of all time. I didn't get a chance to look it up, but it was I'm not exaggerating too much. It's the #1 something of like all time. Right after he died. I guarantee you DMX had the most streams this week. Now I know some people reflected, some people were just introduced to him. It's an emotional moment, 100%. Well, just like Nipsey, just like Kobe, just like DMX, and whoever else going to die next whenever their time comes. For some reason, we don't highlight them until after the fact. I don't know why that is. I think part of it is because like we're enjoying their entertainment, we're enjoying the places that they take us to, but we don't appreciate them in a way that makes us share them with others yet. generally speaking, to the masses. Like for me, if you ever stick around, like you know who I look up to. You're gonna see a whole bunch of E.T. You're gonna see a whole bunch of Kobe pre-death. You're gonna see Ray Lewis. You're gonna see Malcolm X. Everybody know the people I look up to. Like I'm just sharing it. Like yo, these people impacted me. Let me tell them like how maybe you can pick up something, right? So do we not give people their flowers until they're gone? All right. Andy Frisella said this, and I shared with Game 7 about a couple of weeks ago. You may not think that you are the stuff, but there are people in this world who do think you are the stuff. And you better not let those people down. You may not think you're the stuff, but there's people in this world who do think you're the stuff, and you better not let those people down. So that ties directly into accepting responsibility as a leader. Nobody in this world may not look up to you, but your kids probably do, or they used to. Your girl probably do, your husband probably do, whatever the case may do. Somebody does. And if you're truly going to be a leader, you make sure you don't let those people down. You don't need 1 million followers. All you need is one. All right, so how do you handle a huge problem in your life? Key word is handle. So number one, you must decide to address it. And a decision is not a real decision unless it's followed by action. Yo, I'm going to get in shape. Well, we don't really know if you decided until you fully committed to getting in shape. You didn't make a decision. You thought about it. Are you interested or are you just committed? It's not a real decision unless it's followed by action. That's why part of our mission is to inspire you to change your mind, because a changed mind changes a life. I decided to eat healthy, made the decision. 27, that was 4.5 years ago. Never messed up. I made the decision to stop drinking liquor. Boom, never messed up. That was only 6 months ago, whatever, more time. Got more time to prove it. Never messed up. I made the decision to work out every day. I missed 1 day in like 800 days. I made the decision to read every day. Same thing. 1 day in 2 years, I missed. Everything that I do, it's all followed by one simple decision that if you ever hear me talk about Just, but that conversation, KP was there that we had with Just. I walked out that crib and I haven't been the same man since because I made a decision and I wasn't interested. I was committed. Step 2, decide if you're going to cope or handle it. So I got a problem. So I'm going to do these drugs because it makes me feel good. That's how I get through it. I can make it till tomorrow. Or I'm going to hit the bar. I'm going to have a couple shots so I can make it till tomorrow. Or I'm going to visit these adult websites. I can make it till tomorrow. Or I'm going to project all my feelings onto other people so I can make it till tomorrow. Or you can handle it. I got this problem. How do I handle this problem? Or I have a problem and it leads me to drugs. Let me go see a therapist. Let me read some books. Let me change my environment. Boom, boom, pow. Whatever you got to do to handle it. And that could be a 3-decade-long process. Who knows? Or it could be a 1-day process. But most importantly, this is what I want everybody to get. You got to decide if you're getting treatment or if you're curing yourself. This is why I really wanted Mace on here. So Mace is a therapist. He's assumed to be a doctor. And we always talk about like therapists and doctors are cool. They serve a purpose, but they don't cure people. They just treat people. Right? So say like your depression is music in your head. It's just loud, banging drums and all this crazy sounds in your head. When you get medicine, it just turns the volume down. The loud, crazy sounds are now mellow, crazy sounds. But it's still there. When you go get treatment, the doctor gives you tools to use to treat yourself. But if you don't use the tools, you're never going to cure yourself. That's what people known are like backsliders and people that don't do the work. So the cure is up to you. You have to go get the help. You have to use the help, and it's never going to change until you decide to do so. So you decide to address it. You decide if you're going to cope or handle it. You decide if you're going to just get treatment or if you're going to cure yourself. And by no means do I mean to bash DMX, because I'm not. But there's things we can learn from this, and this is exactly what we would do with whoever we're working with at the time, and today is you, whoever's watching. Let's take something and learn from this. right? Because hypothetically, what if he could have made it through to what he got through and then recorded some new albums or new concerts or whatever and helped all these drug addicts across the world and been there for his son? I'm a person who really, really values words. What if his son always listened to that part, no more getting high, no more drinking 40s? He may not be able to grieve right now. He may be pissed off because you told me and you told the world that you was done. And now I lost you because of this. So whatever you're going through, that don't mean that you don't need help. That don't mean that it's not difficult. That don't mean that it's not hard. But you have to make the decision to change your situation, or you're going to be taken from this earth before your job is done. All right. So I know that was a little bit longer, but it was a lot to get through. So Pizzle KG, I'm gonna pass it over to y'all.
Yeah. Well. First of all, I always love doing the lyric breakdown, right? Because it teaches us about our diet, right? A lot of people think that our diet is only what we can eat or put in our body, but our diet is what we hear, our environment, what we socially learn, what we see, what we consume. So your diet, a lot of people are listening to things that don't go well with them. So that lyric portion of, you know, breaking down things to tell people and show people what they're actually listening to and what they subconsciously drill in their head over and over by repeating these lines is something that I really enjoy. And yeah, for sure. Going back to what he was saying, those lyrics for sure were a cry for help. You know, I can't speak if people reached out or not, or and things like that. But the hardest part for when people are struggling and dealing with things are, well, one is accepting that, right? Acknowledging that, yo, like I'm struggling, I have a problem, right? That's the hardest thing, to acknowledge that, right? And then the next hardest one is to actually go and seek that help, because for whatever reason you may feel weak, especially in our culture. A lot of people think that when you get help, especially men, it makes you weak. It makes you, um, every other derogatory word that you could think about that isn't good. That's what help brings on to you. So that's another huge thing that deters people from actually curing themselves, is the fear of being judged, the fear of um, not being perfect to what society thinks. And the third one is actually just acting on it, like you said. That so those three: admitting, asking, and then doing. So those three are the toughest three, um, of doing those, right? And the reason why they're tough is because that takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and it's easy to just put the fault on other people, right? Just think about it. A lot of situations you talk with people, well, it wasn't my fault, blah blah. Hey, it's not the point. Like the point is, it was whatever's happening is happening. So even if it wasn't your fault, like it's still your responsibility. Like for example, it's not my fault. I've never met my father, right? That's not my fault, right? But it is my responsibility to heal the wounds of being fatherless, and because if I don't heal those wounds, then the way I treat my woman isn't right. The way I treat other people isn't right. I'm not going to be the best version of me if I'm walking around with an open wound that I haven't stitched up and let um, and let heal. So though that's really powerful, and to go with the why do people give flowers, so late afterwards or when people are gone? Well, one is the old adage of um, you don't realize what you have until it's gone, type thing. We just take a lot of people for granted, and things like that. And then another part is just sometimes people want to be a part of something on social media, and things like that, unfortunately. But I really think that people don't realize, like, the goodness in people until they're really gone, or they don't really take the time to understand someone's story or understand them, someone's life. Um, so once someone passes, that's when it's like, oh, let me go reflect. Wow, look, what did this person do? Then what did that person? Wow, I didn't know this person did X, Y, Z. I didn't know. So then it becomes like, you know, this um, this fast track of everyone just all of a sudden, caring so much. And I'm not saying people don't care, but usually it's just after people lose something and things like that. So the song lyrics one is definitely something that I enjoy doing. I love it, all right, because people, especially in music, it's an art that people express their feelings, and and tell their story and relive their experiences. So if you're not careful and you're just putting all this stuff in your brain without consciously understanding what he's talking about or consciously seeing what the person is talking about, you can be drilling some things in your head that you don't want to be drilling. So yeah, so KP, I'm gonna pass the torch to you.
And that was good. It was definitely good. And Malk, what you said was good as well. And I definitely agree that, a lot of times we go through situations and it sucks, right? Like you might be born in poverty, or you might be born to a family with drug use, or you might be born in certain situations or put in certain situations, even after you've been born. But it's your responsibility to handle it, right? It's your responsibility to get out of it. It's your responsibility to find a way. And sometimes it sucks, but I was telling Malcolm them last week, like heavy's the head that wears the crown, right? Like you got to be able to say, all right, cool, this is what it is. This is how I'm going to handle it. And this is how I'm going to knock it out. And it's very, very important. And one quote that I always got from TD Jakes was stop worrying about what you lost and start living on what you have left, right? So stop worrying about what you had in the past. Stop worrying about the issues that affected you. Stop worrying about, things that were detrimental to your life. Start worrying about the things that you currently have and how you can actually mold your future and mold and change the way and change the future for your children so they don't have to be in that same exact situation, right? So I think it's very, very important to realize that. It's sad to see with DMX. Of course, when you're dealing with drugs, I understand. I got members of my family who are still currently struggling with drugs. I got a best friend who went crazy because of drugs. But it's just, you realize it is a chemical change in the body, and it is very hard. It's a very, very tough thing to change. It's a very, very tough responsibility, right? Like there's many responsibilities, many different levels. Drugs is a hard, hard responsibility, but it's still your responsibility to do better, to at least want better, or to at least admit and say, like, yo, I have a problem. Like, this is what it is. And then you'll be surprised, who can help you out from there. But just being aware that, it is your responsibility. It sucks sometimes that we're put in certain situations, but you put in a situation, you got to get yourself out of it. You got to do what you got to do. And that's all I had.
I totally agree, Miss Debbie. And it's funny, the narrative of how if you ask for help, that makes you weak. To me, that makes you one of the strongest people that you can be, right? Because one, you're showing the ability to want to get better, right? That, like, if you are actively seeking how to get better, how can that possibly make you weak? And it's just something that society deems weak when you ask for help, and I just really don't believe that. A lot of times you do hear in lyrics, I got it from the mud by myself, which is usually never true. It's no way in this world. Like you have someone that helped you, right? No matter whatever it is, somebody caught a pass that you was throwing, somebody helped you study. Like, granted, like you did all the work, but I just don't like the idea of someone, I did this all myself by myself, and I'm never going to use somebody. I just don't rock with that, and I don't know. I just think that the weakness part of it when you're asking for help, I think that's just a childish way of thinking about it. I think a lot of times that when people are like, "Oh, you weak," when you ask for help, most of the time, truthfully, deep down, it's like um, a little envy, right? Because they mustered up enough courage to actually go and ask for help. And for the people who are doing the asking of help, like it seems like it's like a weight lifted off your back once you once you can share the things that you're struggling with. It's like, yo, like I don't have to carry all this weight of my struggles by myself. And one thing that we've said and to ourselves in game 7 is why do you struggle in silence when you have people here that are for you, right? So you never know who's struggling in silence. And if you're watching this and you're struggling in silence, I really 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 pray and encourage you to just find one person, like even if that's one person that you may not know, even if it's somebody that you don't think that can handle information, find one person and be able. And if you can't find one person, maybe you can do something like journaling, right? Maybe you can type a letter out and give it to somebody, right? If you're unable to actually physically talk. So I highly, highly, highly encourage you if you're struggling in silence right now and you're struggling in general, please, please, please ask for help. Please.
And then one thing I also say too, to piggyback off Miss Debbie, is also don't be afraid to be vulnerable, right? It was kind of interesting. I saw an Instagram post, and it made me smile, and I thought about, I'm like, dang. But it said like, yo, DMX was one of the most vulnerable people who was still considered a real thug or a real man, right? And I thought about it, and they showed all his old clips. How many times have you seen growing up DMX pouring crying, right? Hugging guys or dancing on the set, like really expressing emotion. And you really didn't think about it like, yo, he's been vulnerable this whole time. You know, of course he didn't come out and say he had a problem, but just in that particular realm of him being vulnerable, it's like, yo, he was really vulnerable. You know what I mean? So don't be afraid to put yourself out there or to seek the help to get the therapy that you need to make yourself a better person.
100%. Ray says, I think people don't ask for help because people's help comes with string attached. That just means you're asking the wrong people for help. That's all. That just means you're asking
Correct.
the wrong people or the wrong resources, whoever that applies to. Right? So that does apply to you. You just gotta go somewhere else. Because there's people out here like just this that we doing right here, bro. Like we already like it's going after the run is going to be even different. But we've already been paid thousands and thousands of dollars to do this. We do it for free every weekend, and our strings attached is like, yo, go apply it. That's all we want you to do. It's like go apply it. But from what y'all two just said, I wrote some things down. Asking for help, in my opinion, after being an educator, is 99.999% based on parenting. Based on parenting. So there's different kinds of parenting styles. Um, we have the drill sergeant parent, which is prominent in the African American community. I said it, so you do it. Everything that I say is what it's going to be, right? Just because I said it, do it. There's no kind of dialogue, no kind of explaining of consequences. It's not really a learning process. It treats the kid as just a doer. The kid is not really a person, right? Drill sergeant parent. Then you have the helicopter parent. They're just all on your back. Like you never learn anything by yourself. The adult is always there. You have the laissez-faire parent. You just let your kid run wild, right? And then you have the consultant parent. It's like a business. Like, yo, Nas, you made this mistake. Here's what you did. Here's why it's important. Here's going to be your consequences. Or boom, I see you made a mistake. Why did you do that? Like it's where you let them know, yo, it's okay to mess up, but it's not okay to not fix it. And when you do mess up, you're going to learn as well as be held accountable. So they'll learn through life that it's okay to mess up. But if you had that drill sergeant parent, that's when you hide your mistakes. That's when you're going to, that's like when you go to college or whatever, the preacher's kids and the policeman's kids, the principal's kids, they be wild. because they had drill sergeant parents normally. They don't know what to do when they get off the leash, right? You have the laissez-faire parents. Those kids, they may be super, super mature or they may be super, super gone because they raise themselves. The helicopter parents, helicopter kids, they can go various different ways. But a lot of the most polished kids, especially the ones that are good with adults soon, were like had like consultant parents. They were like treated as a person. So asking for help is directly tied, at least in like your subconscious, to what kind of parents you had. Right? DMX, he clearly asked for help like through his music, but clearly his parents wasn't. I guess they would be considered laissez-faire because like they wasn't there, and his parent was kind of like the legal system. And then secondly, two, I know people say like, "Yo, it's hard to be an addict. You don't know unless you've been an addict." I don't. However, I do know I have an extremely addictive personality. If I ever touch a drug, I'm done because I'm gonna be hooked. That's why I don't touch it. Everything that I do, I go all the way in. I would be a game seven fiend, all drugs, all every day. I know, and I know what kind of family that I come from. However, obviously by now I study people. So I've studied drug addicts. All they did was make a choice. Even when they was freaked out, one day something happened to them bad enough because adults over the age of 26 in terms of brain development usually don't learn until there's massive trauma, until you lose $100,000, until you get divorced, until you did something dumb that got somebody hurt. That's when we learn. So normally something happens to them to make a choice. But that addictive personality is what makes people great. Like if you know about Grant Cardone, he was a fiend. And you can tell. Like he's totally addicted to his business. That's all he like he's juiced up for his business. Now he's worth XYZ billions. Right? They have the kind of personality to lock in. They just have to shift what they're locking into. And that just takes a decision. It may be a chemical imbalance, it may be a whatever. But if you're going to be one of them to truly switch, it's going to take for you to make a decision. That just means that you're going to need a super, super, super big reason that is going to be stronger than the pool of drugs. Right? So whoever that one person is, that one family who didn't give up on you, that's the person that you pour into. You know? So parenting is very, very important because that is a huge determinant on how, when, and why you'll ask for help. And then secondly, if you are somebody who struggles with addiction, I want you to take a step back and realize you have the perfect personality to be successful because you got the game seven mentality. You're willing to go all the way in all the time. You just have to shift your target. You just have to shift your target. Got another comment. People could struggle as a result of pride, embarrassment, and shame. Society can be so judgmental, but a person who truly wants and needs help has to push past the mindset of others.
I can jump in this for sure.
Okay.
Um, for sure. When I was done with football, the game didn't end on my terms, right? Not at all. Which, unfortunately, for a lot of people, the game or some things don't end on their terms, and it comes and it's hard to deal with. So for me, I was embarrassed. Um, I was thinking, what do people think? Um, how I'm looking, I'm shameful, right? But that was all in the mindset of me seeing myself through someone else's eyes. People that one really don't care about me when I think about it and keep it 100, right? Because that year trans like um transformation from being an NFL player to going back into society and figuring out my mark. I seen a lot of people in my life dwindle away, right? I was no longer able to provide them with an experience anymore, so they dwindled away, and I don't have any of those type of relationships anymore. But that's true. So for a while, I was suffering in silence by myself. Um, and this is when I really started developing that anxiety, especially social anxiety. I started having, I developed depression, right? And all of it was because I was worried about what like other people were thinking of me. I was ashamed. The most feeling I felt was embarrassment, like I was, and then also like I failed, right? Um, and this happened for probably about a year or maybe longer. And it wasn't until I shared my feelings and the things inside that I was going through, because I'm sure people had an idea of how I was feeling, right? Even though I'm always, a bubbly guy, like I still feel that people felt it, for sure. And once I made that decision to just pour my heart out when I was alone in Michigan, and pour my heart out to the group, to the homies, to the group chat, it was like literally like instant, like a deep, 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 like literally you've been underwater for like 10 seconds, and then you finally get up. Like, you ever see a movie and somebody goes, "Ah!" When they finally get out of water, like that's how I felt, right? Because it was like, dang, like I really finally told the people that what I was dealing with, people that I trust, people that I know are not gonna care, people that I know that are understand, like this doesn't define who I am as a human. So as soon that at that moment when I decided to be vulnerable, and then also let people know and ask for help and share my struggle, my life turned around. Like literally, like turned around. And the next month, I made the decision that I wasn't going to be in Michigan anymore. I literally set a plan that I was moving. As soon as the last day of school hit, I had a whole place. I sold everything that I had in Michigan and then packed my car, a sedan. Everything else was out of there. As soon as the end of the school, all right, y'all, I'm gonna rock with you. 10 hours back to the crib, not looking back, because I had this plan and I set my mind, because all I did was seek it, right? And once I got over that, well, people are going to think I'm weird. I'm always been the big bubbly guy. I've always been the person that people come to when they're struggling. Now I'm struggling. Now people are going to think, well, you're invincible. Like you never have problems. And that was something that I couldn't live with anymore. I couldn't live with hiding how much I was struggling. And then at the same time, when this was going on, all the things that football helped me mask, my daddy issues, dealing with trauma when I was from like other parts of my life, all this stuff started pouring and oozing out, simply because now I had more time to suffer. I was suffering in silence. It was just me. So now all I had was my brain going hard. So I definitely feel you, Ms. Debbie. Society does have this stigma of asking for help, and especially our society, as black, as in the black community, a lot of times it's prideful, and black men is prideful to help, ask for help, because we don't want to seem weak on any means.
Um, thanks for sharing that, KG. But you made me think of, like, just because everybody's struggling, unless you're in the middle, comfortable area, like you got like a nice job and you paying your bills and you got a cool relationship, and like you at that area where you're just gonna stay for forever. Like, unless you're in that middle area. But if you're at the bottom or the top, every person's struggling. You feel me? So like what I would talk to KG, that version of KG you just talked about, it's like, yo, you struggling, bro, but what level are you struggling at? Like, you done did so much that people are never ever going to do, and you just stuck on the fact that this momentary part of your life has stopped. You don't realize like that your 5 years in the league completely changed your life. You show a little kid a picture of your jersey and they glow. I done been with KG on the sideline of a game from a school that don't got nothing to do with this high school. You're KG, yo, this big recruit middle linebacker started jumping up and down, like, oh my God, it's KG. I was like, man, you know him? Like, yeah, I know KG. Like, I've seen numerous young men meet KG and like want to hit a backflip. Like, oh my goodness, it's KG, right? So KG made it to that level because of the pressure that he put on himself, but then he struggled with shifting that part of his ride ended. Um, for me personally, like my overall life, I'm in the best position like I ever been in, more or less. But this has by far been the hardest part of my life. But because of the things that I'm seeking, not because I don't have control, but I'm constantly putting stuff on my plate. I'm constantly pouring into me so I can pour into other people. I'm constantly hitting that ceiling to get to the next level. It's stressful, right? But what level are you at? I'm not at the level that I used to be, where I was struggling to just get a job, like we talked about with G this past week, doing hundreds of applications and getting a no, 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 getting a no. Having to do Uber, my car breaking down and running in the streets, all those kind of stuff. It was stressful, right? So everybody's stressing. Now, and I never really had the problem that KG had with like sharing. Like y'all know me, I share everything. Like everything, I'll just let y'all know, like as soon as it happens. And I think that helps other people share it too. Like they like Mount just tell you, like, yo, like it's just what happened. I know somebody else going through it, somebody else is going through worse. So realize that 66% of people are struggling, right? That middle, and it's not even that's just a number I made up in thirds. That middle third, they all right, but they should seek some struggle too so they can grow, right? So everybody is struggling. Don't think it's just you. Um, and just like KG, yo, I made the decision to pack everything up. I was gone. Everything that wasn't connected to me, I left. I took that 10-hour trip. He made the decision. He could have easily stayed there, dwelled in his pain for another year, another 2 years, another 3 years. Then one of them dudes he got potential. He could have been 300 pounds. Yo, you played in the NFL. You don't like playing in the NFL. He could have let go, but he did not. He simply made a decision to change his situation. So Pizzle, anything in closing, Pizzle?
Yeah, one thing I'll say is adversity creates the opportunity. So don't go through the struggle and just know that there's nothing but opportunity that's about to come out of this, right? Like turn your pain to champagne. That's all.
KG?
I like that line. KP been doing a little reading. He been having some one-liners a little lately. I like that.
Oh. That ain't come from him. That ain't come from him.
Uh-oh.
Don't do that.
I know I got that one from somebody. You know, typically I always call out my sources. I don't know who I got that one from. It might be Mount.
Mike, he said it at the end. Might be. What I like to say is embrace the struggle, go through the struggle with other people, and give people their flowers while they're here. If somebody really like this week, whoever's watching, like if somebody like really means something to you, like send a text, pick up the phone, call them like, yo, like I appreciate you. And even if it's somebody that you don't have that connection with, write a comment on a post, send them a DM, even if they don't read it, right? You're still showing that love to them before it's too late. So I challenge everyone who's watching it to reach out to somebody that may not know, or they know but not know to the extent of how much they mean to you. Let them know, because that's a great feeling. Like, just and it's a great feeling to just appreciate somebody, and because they have your back, because they inspire you. And a lot of times I feel like people don't want to do that because they don't want to seem like a fanboy or a fangirl or not. But no, if somebody helps you and somebody inspires you, make it known. And it's okay. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you a follower. It doesn't make you any of the negative things. It makes you a person that seeks out greatness and wants to attack it. So lean in, dive in, and let them know how you feel.
Yes, sir. And I would say share your problems, number one, but nobody gonna help you if you don't help you. No matter how bad your situation is. You can be coming off a family massacre or you got a 99 on the test. Whatever the case may be. Only you are going to be the one to handle your situation. You need other people's help, right? But they can only take you up to treatment. But the cure is up to you. And if you're a leader, if you really want to be a real leader, even if you didn't ask for the influence, in order to truly serve, to take care of your mission, to what you were put on this earth to do, you got to accept responsibility. So no matter what you're going through, it may not be your fault, but it is your problem, which means it's your responsibility. So take that with you, learn it and apply it. See you next week. Peace out.